ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
What I will say is Leck is shattered. He's incredibly disappointed. Both Adam Kingsley and myself spoke with him yesterday afternoon. He's in Barcelona. He loves our footy club. He was in tears at his exit interview. The reason for leaving was great opportunity, as you mentioned earlier, to play regular football because at the moment he's developing nicely. But we've just got a couple of really A-grade defenders ahead of him.
Jason McCartney from the Giants, speaking about Lekalia. It's one of the biggest stories of trade period is a deal that did not happen. That key defender is living the brutal reality of AFL silly season. We explain why in a moment. We're going to also check in on huge names like Curnow, Merritt. We are entering crunch time for the trade window. It's also crunch time for the AFLW. 4 games left in the regular season. Things are also getting heated at the Women's Cricket World Cup. Australia v India, that is loading, plus soundbites coming your way. I'm Patrick Stack. This is ABC Sport Daily. Time to check in on the AFL trade period. Chris De Silva's been covering a lot for the ABC Sport website. Chris, let's talk about Lekalia. A 21-year-old Giants defender thought he was going to St Kilda, is now not. This kind of happens at trade time, but why is he especially shattered and why is the industry so particularly shook?
Teams often don't walk away from the trade, and I think that's what stung people here, and certainly would have stung Aaliyah, who's actually in Barcelona holidaying, I believe. So way to ruin your holiday. But especially teams don't walk away from a trade. They don't walk away from a trade with still almost 4 or 5 days left in the trade period. So it's a bizarre situation, and I think it's interesting that St Kilda hasn't spoken openly about why that is the case. Now, there are a few theories as to that. Have they mismanaged their cap? Are they chasing someone else that we don't know about? Jordan De Goey's name's been thrown up in wild rumours. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to play out there in terms of Lekalia might certainly not going to end up at the Saints now, but it'll be interesting to see how the Saints pivot and how Aaliyah pivots and where does he end up? Does he just go back to the Giants where he has a 3-year deal on the table, or are other clubs able to get in the window for him now?
There are bigger names being pursued too. Geelong has offered 3 first-round picks for Carlton's Charlie Curnow. The Swans also chasing the big key forward. Why has that offer been rejected and seen as sort of egregious from a Navy Blues point of view? And where do you see him playing in 26?
Yeah, the answer to this one is I think not all draft picks are made the same, basically. So 3 first-rounders, at first sight looks great, and it's never been offered by any club for any player, in AFL history. So you look at that and you think, oh, that's a great deal. But then you actually look at where are these picks going to end up? And Geelong, if they get Charlie Curnow in through the door, are going to be an excellent team.
Understanding what 3 first-round picks might actually look like. And for Geelong, those 3 picks are effectively going to be picks in the 20s. So if that's what the offer ends up being, notwithstanding the fact that we don't want Charlie to go no matter what, I'm not sure anyone would think that that's a reasonable deal for who Charlie Curnow is.
Carlton, I think, would prefer a player. Now, when you're Geelong, I don't know who are the players that Carlton would want that you are also willing to give up. That's where Sydney comes into the table, and they've actually been reported to be working on a deal which is involving picks and players. So I think something like that is more likely to appease Carlton, who have said publicly on the record numerous times that they're happy to keep Curnow. He's got 4 more years left on his deal. So I think if I had to pick between Geelong and Sydney, just purely because I think Sydney have more appealing assets to offer Carlton, I would pick the Swans as where Charlie Curnow ends up.
Zach Merritt, we know his relationship with Essendon is probably best described as toxic, but he still hasn't found his way out of the club just yet. How is that playing out to this point?
Yeah, it's similar to the Curnow one, actually, because Carlton with Curnow, Blues football boss Chris Davies spoke this morning and said...
Yeah, what has been clear from day one is that we're not going to be in a position where we're having to suggest to other clubs what we think Charlie's worth. We want Charlie to stay. So, I'm not going to get into what I think Charlie's worth other than saying that we want him to be at Carlton. We value him highly. We value him far more than what some other people are suggesting around the competition he's worth.
I think it's a very similar situation with Essendon. Essendon's party line has been he's not going anywhere, which I believe is part posturing, but it's also a negotiation tool because it's not on. They're not trying to get Zach Merritt out the door, so it's really on Hawthorn, who have obviously sold him on coming to the club. Now it's on the Hawks to come correctly with a deal that is not going to be seen as peanuts or 20 cents on the dollar from a Bombers standpoint. They have to come seriously and with a serious offer that's going to appease Essendon. Now, do I think that's going to happen? At this stage, probably not, because we haven't seen any movement in that, which is kind of rare. You know, even in the case of Curnow, at least now you've got some offers coming out, and Carlton seems to be a bit more open to actually letting him go, whereas Essendon seems a ways away from that. And I think since they did that presidency switch late last month where Andrew Welsh has come in and seemingly kind of revitalised the place a bit, and it seems like he has a bit more of a healthier relationship with Zach Merritt, making it more tenable for him to return if he's not able to get his move. So plenty to play out with that one. I think if it does happen, that's going to be a deadline job for next Wednesday for sure.
There is so much still to play out. You can get across it all with Chris De Silva's blog on the ABC Sport website. He's going to keep you across everything right up until trade deadline. Chris, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem, mate. Thank you.
There are 4 rounds remaining in the AFLW home and away season. We need to get up to speed. Marnie Vinall is the perfect person to do just that, Marnie. I'm keen to start with the traditional heavyweights, Brisbane and Adelaide. 8 rounds in. Look, they're still in the top 8, but 5th and 7th, it's a slide from what they have been. Does that speak to their decline or the competition's ascension and growth?
Yeah, what a good question. It's been interesting to watch both Brisbane and Adelaide because historically, since the AFLW got rid of the conference system, top 4 has really been a mix of North, Melbourne, Adelaide and Brisbane. But as you mentioned, they're currently Brisbane's 5th, Adelaide's 7th. You've got Hawthorn and Carlton in the mix in the top 4. Hawthorn that came into the competition in 2022 and Carlton who kind of ended in the middle of the ladder recently. So there's this question now of who's the second best team in the competition, because with Brisbane and Adelaide being a bit more fallible, it's interesting. I mean, North's at the top and no one can chase them, but the rest of the competition does seem to be evening out.
We are getting to crunch time. I mean, there's 4 rounds left, and that's the sort of higher end of the competition, I suppose. For those on the outside of the 8 trying to get in, it's Geelong and Sydney I'm intrigued by. The Cats, 2 games outside, Sydney 1 game back. From those 2, who do you see as most likely to make it into the 8 and play some finals footy?
If you asked me even probably 3 weeks ago, I would have said Sydney. They had such a hot start. They won their opening 4 matches, but now they've lost their last 4 matches, and they did go down to the Crows by just 2 points. But in that mix of losing sides was also Collingwood and Giants, who were not in the top 8. And then their next 4 games are Carlton, Melbourne, West Coast, all top 8 sides. So that makes it very tricky for Sydney, who did start so well. I mean, the storylines at the start of the season is Chloe Molloy going to break the record for the most goals? We couldn't get enough of the Swans. On the flip side, you've got Geelong, who they lost their opening 3 games, and then they had a few wins, and then they've lost their last 2. But those 2 defeats did come at the hands of top 8 sides, and they were very exciting and close games. But if they do want to play finals, they're going to have to really get moving, and they do have some current top 8 sides to play. So it's going to be a very interesting one to watch. I'm going to say, even though Geelong are below Sydney, I reckon Geelong are closer to playing finals.
As you touched on, the entire comp right now kind of feels like it's in the shadow of the Kangaroos, unbeaten after 8 games. Have we had the storyline yet on whether or not they can go unbeaten? Because it feels like an obvious one.
Yeah, and it's undefeated for 8 games this year, but it's 20 in a row all up. They're almost going to break the record across the men's as well for the amount of consecutive wins of a side. They just seem so untouchable. I mean, I think it's because there's not an over-reliance on stars that we're still seeing across other teams, even just talking then about Sydney and Chloe Molloy, where if you look at the Kangaroos, there's just so much depth. Even at the start of the year, the chat was, is Jazzy Garner going to get the best and fairest? We know she's always been talked about and never polled well. Is this going to be her year? And now it looks like her teammate, Ash Riddell, is looking pretty well placed to contend that. I wouldn't be surprised if half of the All-Australian team end up being North Melbourne players, and they're able to just adapt in games really well. So even we saw them against Essendon go scoreless for an entire quarter, and then by the end of that match, they'd won it by 30 points. So even if teams seem to get them on the ropes, even for a 5-minute spells, the Kangas just put their foot to the floor and dominate. And I think that it's also a reflection of just how much they have invested in their women's program, because North Melbourne have also gone back-to-back in VFLW grand final, so this year and last year, and it's just a reflection of how well placed the entire club is when it comes to their women's program.
It's also Pride Round this weekend. It's going to be a juicy weekend of footy. Can't wait to catch it all. Marnie Vinall, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
A massive game coming up in the Women's World Cup as Australia play hosts India this Sunday. Right now, Australia's top of the standings. Teams 1 through 4 make the semis. India just lost in stunning fashion to South Africa, so they're wobbling. Former Aussie player Michelle Goszko is here to talk about the tournament. Gozzy, Australia first up. 2 wins and a rained-out draw. Who or what are you liking about their start so far?
Beth Mooning, again, rescued Australia. I've been really impressed with her. Obviously, she's the Steve Waugh of female cricket for me. She's so reliable. I've been impressed with her. I've been impressed actually with the lower order from the Australian team. Kim Garth, 38 in the first game, and Alana King at number 10 gets a 50.
6. Alana King goes to a half century with another 6.
We know that their batting is their strength, but overall, their bowling has probably been better than their batting overall. And it's been interesting. And I think for the Australians, there was a real talk about how they were going to approach this World Cup. And they were going to go sort of hell for leather and just be really ultra aggressive. It's kind of backfired a little bit, and they've had to dig themselves out of a hole. But they're very lucky they bat so deep. We just mentioned about Alana King at 10, and they needed it at times. I think once they click and it all works, the juggernaut will continue on.
What, if at all, are you worried about?
Elisa Healy is probably a little bit shorter runs at the moment, and hopefully the rain. So if there's a loss, and you just mentioned about a big game against India coming up, that hopefully that doesn't backfire. But I'm sure that it's sort of at that top order, the top 4 or 5, rather than just Beth Mooney. I think Annabelle Sutherland hasn't been in the runs either. So there's a little bit of a question mark on that at the moment. But I think in the right conditions, once it clicks, they'll keep rolling on for the rest of the tournament.
Just on India, how big would it be for the hosts to lose again on home soil, back-to-back defeats in a tournament they're hosting?
It's interesting. Back in 97, the World Cup was there in India. I don't think anybody in India actually thought that they had an Indian women's cricket team, which they did. And they nearly toppled us in the semi-final a couple of days before Christmas. And this time around, though, it is completely different. Everybody in India knows there is an Indian women's cricket team, and I see so much pressure, enormous pressure on the shoulders of that team and Harmanpreet Kaur, the skipper. So, this is a massive game. They go back-to-back losses after that big loss against South Africa. Look, they're going to be copying it, not just on the field, but off the field as well. So, it's a huge, crucial game for them.
Can't wait to see how it plays out Sunday. It's going to be an absolute doozy. Michelle Goszko, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Soundbites. AFL retiree Luke Bruce attended his last Hawthorn Best and Fairest this week. His good mate Jack Gunston paid tribute.
Yes, we were rivals, but it was always me trying to catch you. And that's why I continue to chase, because you set such a high standard for yourself, but for everyone else around you. I know look at you crying. Can you get the camera on him?
Who is cutting onions in here? No tears for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays in Major League Baseball after they took the conference series against the Yankees.
The Yankee lose. The Yankee lose. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Gracious in victory-ish. In the NFL, the Detroit Lions coach is just out here trying to prove that he's down with the kids.
And they hit the high ball, but the ball traveled 26, 7 yards down the field. 6, 7. The truth is, I only laugh because my son, number one, makes the whole thing a big deal. There's all these things that are a big deal to these young kids. It's like, and then so I'm like, what is 6'7"? He's like, it's a meme. I'm like, well, what's a meme? Like, I don't even know what that is. I'm like, yeah.
Okay, maybe not. I'm Patrick Stack. This is ABC Sport Daily, produced by Poppy Penny. Thanks to Trade Radio, Prime Video, the Hawthorn Football Club and Fox Sports US for the extra audio used in this episode.
Discover more great ABC podcasts, live radio and exclusives on the ABC Listen app.